An Ohio death row inmate convicted of murder says he's just too obese to be executed. Lawyers for convicted murderer Ronald Post have asked a court to delay his January execution because he weighs more than 480 pounds. Now, Post's lawyers say an attempt to execute him will cause serious pain because of scar tissue, and they're also concerned that the execution gurney isn't even going to hold him. Included in court filings are letters between Post and prison medical personnel, and in them Post asks for weight loss help, even requests gastric bypass surgery. So Post was sentenced to death back in 1985 for shooting and killing a hotel clerk. I want to get more from defense attorney Brian Claypool on this issue. I posted this on my Facebook page, Brian, and people are just out of the woodwork about this one. First of all, does this meet the standard for cruel and unusual punishment? I mean, they call it torturous, lingering death.
Well, Christy, first of all, you're right. It has to be a torturous kind of pain that Mr. Post is going to be subjected to. And from what I've seen from the affidavit of the medical doctor who submitted this in support of not having the execution, I don't think it's enough. And here's why. His conclusion says that Mr. Post would go through undue harm, but he doesn't get specific as to what type of harm we're talking about. For example, I think you need to have evidence of Mr. Post having a pre-existing heart condition, or let's say he's got like a massive high blood pressure condition or a pre-existing seizure disorder, and then the doctor comes in and makes an argument that if you're trying to inject an IV into a vein you can't find, that might create a heart attack or cause a heart attack or cause a seizure, then I think you're talking about the kind of undue torture and pain and lingering pain that might warrant stopping this execution. But right now, I don't see it. I think it's too vague.
Okay. In fact, let's let everybody in on exactly what was said. Post defense team asked that anesthesiologist to give his professional opinion, and here's what he wrote specifically. After reviewing Ohio's execution policy and Ronald Post prison records, I believe it's highly probable to a reasonable degree of medical and scientific certainty that there will be substantial complications with his execution. At the very minimum, there is a substantial risk and an objectively intolerable risk that Mr. Post will be subjected to harm if Ohio attempts to execute him. That just sounds absurd. Of course there's going to be harm. The man's scheduled to die. So I'm just curious about, he went on to say that he has attempted to lose weight, that he has knee and back problems. And I know that back in '08, the federal court rejected arguments by another condemned double killer in Ohio, Richard Cooey. His attorneys argued that the prison food and the limited opportunity to exercise are the culprits. So do we blame our prison system for making death row inmates too fat to execute?
Yeah, Christy, you're right on. This is a cop-out. Imagine this. If this execution is halted because of Mr. Post's weight, then guess what all the inmates are going to do on death row nationwide? Right. They're going to eat, not exercise, get fat, and then at the end of the day, hey, you can't execute me. I'm too heavy. You can't do it. It's going to encourage inmates to not stay fit, to not be healthy, and to be sedentary and get fat. Plain and simple. And another thing is, you're right, the 8th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says it has to be cruel and unusual punishment. And what that means is it has to be degrading to human dignity. And I don't see in that statement by the doctor, he says substantial complications. What are the complications? I don't see any. And he uses the word harm, Christy. He just says harm. You need more than just harm. You need almost a form of torture in order to stop an execution under the 8th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And it's not here. And
we'll see what happens there. Hey, thank you so much. Brian Claypool, glad to have you with us today.
Thanks, Christy.